for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities.
Hello and welcome to episode 32 of That's a Shame. I'm Isaac, still in Edinburgh, not on the street anymore. I am in the safety, relative warmth of an Edinburgh flat, and joining me as always, kneeling in yet another new recording venue that doesn't have a table. It's Declan. How are you, Declan?
I'm prostrate.
Oh yeah, that's it. It's like you're praying to the god of audio that please God, let this episode work.
Yeah, exactly. After last week's, well, not catastrophe, but I mean, it wasn't good.
I haven't actually listened back to last week's, so I don't know. I edited it, which was the most painful process of my life on my little laptop that was made for barely displaying one photo at a time, let alone editing anything. And then I was like, right, I'd never want to hear any of this again. The seagulls as well, despite their loudness for me recording and that you could hear them, don't really come out in the final recording as far as I can tell. So it just sounds like we've
really
gone
weird.
mad and started talking about like hauntings that we're experiencing.
Oh no, we're in a Shirley
It's
Jackson
very
novel.
upsetting, the whole thing. This week I'm in the kitchen, right, of this nice flat. Everyone, I think, is out. Who knows for how long that will remain the case. But what with it being Edinburgh, there are now gale force winds blowing against the double glazing, creating this horrible like whoosh sound effect, like it's spooky Halloween noises compilation on Spotify. So if you hear that in the background, it's not you being haunted, it is me. So that's fine.
So yeah, don't worry, but do send your prayers.
As many as possible.
As indeed
thank
I
you.
am.
And then the boiler, of course, kicking off. That's another little feature and credit that I'll have to be including in the show. The kettle turns itself on every so often. It's all to play for, is what I'm saying. And I'm on the Lemsip this episode, so what the thrust is that I'm having a great time. Wish you were here.
Have you been going too hard at the old Sea Main?
I've only been once to Sea Main. Let's talk about Sea Main. It seems a good diving in point to connect
Okay, well, yeah, go on then.
our experiences. Sea Main. Now, we talked about Willow on the show before, haven't we?
Oh, we have. Not nearly enough, but yes.
What episode was that? It was the one with Dange.
Yeah, episode 6.
Yes, I was thinking 6. What was it? It's about a tree.
Who winks at mortality?
It was about a tree. Who winks at the mortality? And Willow, just to recap, it was a Chinese restaurant. It wasn't a club, but it had kind of smashed together those basic ideas to create something more pure, somehow closer to God than either of them on their own could ever have attained.
But further from any kind of health and safety cleaning regulations.
So much further that it would have been shut down as soon as the government laid its Eye of Sauron orange gaze on them for even a millisecond. Sea Main very much in the vein of Willow Clubs, in that it is a room that has ostensibly a primary purpose outside of being a club. Only in this case, that primary purpose is far more realised because within, I think, about 2 hours of it closing as a club, sometimes less, depending on how aggressively they kick you out, it re-emerges like a phoenix from the fires of just drinks on the floor, horrible idiots everywhere, to become a foyer and cafe for one of the big theatre venues. So it goes from this horrible, seedy atmosphere to a lovely, like, oh, let's grab an espresso and a croissant before going to see
Next to this puddle of vomit.
That's it. Tell us about Sea Main in your experiences previous, and then I'll give you the update about how it's managed to get worse, actually.
Okay. Well, Sea Main, I went to maybe once the first year that I went.
When you're on your own, yeah?
Yeah. I was there with our good friend Lucin.
Oh, yeah.
I say good friend. I don't think I've spoken to her in 2 years, but a good friend.
That's all right. You don't need to speak to your friends to be good friends with them.
No, exactly.
Otherwise, I'd have very few.
And it's, well, I'll try to sum it up for people in a few facts rather than experiences, and then we can talk about the others. It has a carpeted floor.
There are two places that I don't want carpet. One is a bathroom and the other is a club. and I believe this might have both.
No. Thankfully, the toilets are.
Oh, that's all right.
I mean, they're subterranean, which is also.
Oh, yes, that's right.
But they are thankfully
And
tiled.
the lights are always off when I go, or I always turn the lights off. One of the two. Maybe the second, and then the first the next time.
Yeah.
God, all these lights are off.
You're like one of these Alzheimer's patients who keeps dicking themselves over, putting your shoes in the grandfather clock or something. The DJ booth is a corner of the room, and they don't take requests.
Not in a big way. Well, the thing is, they do take requests. They just don't action them.
Enact them.
That's my least favourite combination as well, because it gives you the illusion of having some kind of power over your experience, and then it's just pulled
If you
away.
want a pint, be prepared to pay at least £6.
If you want a gin and tonic, be prepared to mortgage your firstborn child to Satan himself.
This is one of the big things that happened the second year I went, because the second year that I went was during my no drinking year.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was slightly worried that the whole experience would be ruined. But whatever I lacked in inebriated mirth, I made up for in savings.
Hundreds of pounds per second.
Literally, in that, like the first year that I went, I just went all out and did everything I could and spent loads of money. And I think I managed to spend about £500 or £600
Oh, my God.
in a week.
Oh,
Well, not even in a week. I was only there for 5 days.
bloody hell.
But the second time I went, I was there for a week, maybe 8 days.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent 250 quid.
That's the orange soda for 50p.
The orange soda for 50p, the classic, a £2.50 night out.
That's amazing. That's the dream, isn't it, really? If only
Yeah.
we could move beyond this dependency we have on substances to elevate our moods and just
That's
enjoy
like-
C-Main for what it is.
Yeah.
A horrible, carpeted, DJ-less hell.
Filled with cunts as well.
them.
Well, like, one of the things that I remember from last year is we spent a lot of time sat over by the red curtained wall, very
Yes.
Red Room-esque, and took a little peep out, and it was just a big sort of floor to ceiling window
Yeah.
all the way along. And on our last night, Isaac's now girlfriend, then prospective girlfriend, invited us to perhaps the worst event I've ever been to in my life.
She listens to this, so I'm sure she'll be glad to.
I'm looking forward to her feedback. This is the third time I've said
Oh,
this,
is it?
which is that it was a night of all female DJs, which is not a premise that I am in principle against. However, this night did little to convince me that we should have more all-female DJ nights.
It was an anti-equality night for you. in
Yeah,
other words.
it sort of reignited feelings of hatred, I think, among many people there that hadn't been felt in a long time.
Oh no, not since the suffragette
No.
movement.
I was ready to throw myself under the Queen's horse so that women didn't have the vote.
Oh no, Declan does not mean that. He
No,
loves
of course not.
all equality and DJs.
But
I think it
just
was
play
more,
some songs that
the
anyone
style
knows.
of music. Yeah, because the DJ at Pollyanna last year, Kathmandu, she was called, like very good, but not a style of music I know at all. Whereas the DJ this year, Aphid, who I may have told you about,
Oh yeah,
is also female and plays songs that I've heard of.
That's
so
good.
I think it often just comes down to that.
but one of
But
the
it was called Miss World or something.
something like that. Yeah, but there was the thing that I remember most, perhaps, about the evening was that from just outside the venue, if you looked up, you could see Main from the outside, from the
Like the balcony
which
scene.
I'd never ever seen before.
Uh-huh.
And it was only sadder looking at this window, only just about covered by a thick red curtain with some blue lights and the very faintest hint, not hintest faint, of bass. And
Yeah.
maybe the sounds of people either enjoying themselves or
just
under
sobbing.
attack coming from within. And it just really put into perspective that whilst the atmosphere while you're in there can seem passable.
Yeah.
That truly you're just under the spell. There's nothing. There's nothing.
You're just
there for
in
you.
one little box of faux reality where it pretends to be a club.
Yeah.
So the improvements they've made this year, they must make a killing off it, because they have two bouncers who, I mean, they don't do anything because there's no fights, because it's the most like middle class crowd ever. They have, I messaged our friend Joe Dange to ask if it was the same DJ as last year, and he was like,
"Oh yeah, I remember this.
Was the last year's DJ an iPod Shuffle?" Because I mean, they have a man and a playlist, and the man is dispensable, so he often just fucks off for a bit, goes out to kind of rethink his life, and then pops back when he feels that he needs to like man the deck. In the loosest and most metaphorical sense, there is no deck, I should clarify. But what they've done, I don't know if this is in an attempt to make it more professional as a theatre space or more professional as a club, but I feel like it's done neither. They've added like a proper lighting rig, but here's the thing, it's about 8 foot off the floor. So you can basically reach up and like bat away these spotlights, and it just has the effect of illuminating the whole room, which is the exact opposite of what you want in a club, especially a club that has carpeted floors, because you can just see like piles of different coloured effluvia and like gin and beer and just frothing all over the ground, like some kind of primordial ooze that's going to one day create a kind of alcohol dependent life. So that's a shame.
That is dreadful.
They've also they've kept the drink prices unnecessarily high, so that's a shame.
Thank goodness.
And then in the way that last year happened, they kind of pushed all the tables to the side, as I recall. In the area that you described as Red Room-esque, they've put another curtain in front, now creating a sort of stripper booth environment, which is really uncalled for.
Oh, that's...
And
what, intentionally?
I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know what their aim was.
It's always good when you can't tell whether it's intentional or not.
You would think that the aim was to like push all the tables and chairs behind there, but they just left them strewn around the room like an obstacle course. So people were cha-cha sliding their way straight into A&E. Horrible to watch. And all in all, it just made me feel really old, actually, because I guess there are like 18, 19-year-olds there. I don't normally notice how much older I am than that. But when people are like dancing, when people are enjoying that environment, you just realise like your life has not yet taken you anywhere better than this. One day you will know the truth.
I had a similar experience the other week when I was invited to, or like the whole family was invited to the 18th birthday party of one of the girls who used to live next door to us.
Uh-huh.
And we stayed like good friends with their family. They only live like a short way away still. And we went along, and actually, as a precursor to telling how this story relates, I'll tell the tragedy of how I got there.
Okay.
In that I had been working the night before, and I was working that evening as well. Mm-hmm. So I'd gotten up really late, and my family had been at another party we'd been invited to the same day, which was slightly closer. And I was like, oh, I won't go there, but I'll meet you at this second party. Dad came home about 20 past 7. He grabbed a load of beers and he like went to get in the car. And I said, are you off to, what shall I even say? Carol's. Are you off to Carol's
party?
There
are
are
no
now?
18-year-olds called Carol in the entire known universe. If you're an
Well, there we go.
18-year-old called Carol, message in proof.
Look, I get mocked when I use someone's whole name as their fake name.
When you change
And
one
now-
letter.
And now when I've given them a name they couldn't possibly have, you're also annoyed. He said, "Yep, okay." I went, "All right, I'll walk round in a bit." And he left. And then he opened the door and he was like, "It's a surprise party. So if you're going to get there for 7:30 or like don't come for at least another half hour or so."
Mm.
And I was like, "Okay, all right." And then I looked at the time and I thought about when I need to be at work. And I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. I should probably just try and get there for 7:30, because otherwise I'm just not even going to be. I'm not even going to be at this party.
Did the idea of partaking in the surprise element fill you with any particular joy?
No. Oh God, no. No, I think it's preposterous.
Yeah.
But I thought I'd rather just be there, and then if I'm there early enough, I can have a drink before I go to work. Well, I've got to drive still, but if I'm late, then I can't.
No.
So I thought, right, fuck it, I'll go. Got out just in time to see Dad driving away.
Good.
And I was like, right, okay, fuck it, here goes. So I decided to run.
Okay.
Now, running is not, it's never been my strongest feature.
Right.
But probably, no, actually, I was going to say long distance better than sprint, but that's not even very true.
So bad at both is that what you're landing on?
No, I've normally been quite good at the old sprint.
Okay.
Not anymore, now that I'm 4 stone heavier, but also out of shape and out of practice.
Yes.
But I thought, fuck it, it's not far. Well, it was further than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
It was further, certainly, than I was capable of running in the one go at any kind of speed that I needed to, because I only had like 4 minutes to get there. And I, was charging down the street. I must have looked like such a fucking goon. Like, I can only imagine what an image I was, thundering my way down the street. Not in terms of speed, but in terms of sound.
Or the village people like peeking out of their curtains like you're some kind
exactly.
of haunted headless horseman who rocks up every year. Here he is again,
Boy's
Marge.
running again.
It's like an old wives' tale. It means it's going to be a good harvest.
Quick, grab the wicker basket.
We must make our offerings tonight. Or just cutting at their arms.
So I kind of crested the hill.
Wow.
It was uphill.
You haven't made that
so
sound more grand than it was, have you? You came panting
certainly
over a tiny ridge.
Yeah.
Leaking.
It was the slightest of inclines, which I came to the end of, absolutely drenched, my lungs heaving, and I could see about 100 metres away now, the house, and there were people still going in. And I looked at my phone, and it was 29 minutes past. And I was like, right, here we go. I can do this. One last push. And I properly sprinted this final 100 metres. I found within me the kind of fat, ginger, white Mo Farah. That bit at the end where everyone thinks, well, apart from his last race, the mug.
Oh,
but,
leave Somo alone.
Where everyone thinks that they've caught him and then he just fucks off.
I think he does that on purpose.
Yeah. I did that. I was like, here we go. Found it within me.
For Carol!
And I was just, and for Aslan! As I got closer and closer to these people I could see turning in, I realised that it was my mum and dad and my sister. And I was like, fuck, right, okay, this is it. I'm not late. I can make it. I got there just as they got to the front door, and I was stood leaning on it, just heaving, wheezing, panting, right? And who should be there greeting us at the door but fucking Carol? Oh, hi guys, thanks for coming.
To my not surprise party.
And my dad was there, he's like, oh, hi, yeah, how you doing? And then went in, and I was like, oi, what about the surprise? I've edited a lot of panting out of my actual delivery. And he was like, oh yeah, well, it might have been 6:30. How about you go fuck yourself?
He's almost killed you. So loose.
I know.
Oh yeah, might have been
So
last year.
I vowed never to run again.
That was when you swore off it. You swore off running and the concept of surprise.
When I needed it most.
Have you ever had a surprise party?
No.
Would you like one?
No.
Would you forgive me if I threw you one?
Yeah, sure, but I'd throw you one.
Oh yeah, I don't want to. Well, let's call it an armistice.
Yeah,
truce.
well, there we go.
Well,
you'd hate that even more. You'd hate if I threw you a
party.
party.
Basically, any social situation that I haven't chosen to walk into, I'm not up for in the slightest. I can't imagine anything worse than people just appearing in your life.
The reason that I brought it up was being at an 18-year-old's garden/house party really opened my eyes to just how shit those are.
They're all drinking WKD Blue.
Or like girls turning up with just bottles of vodka, like little bottles of vodka. I'm just like, what are you
going to do with that?
No, you shouldn't be touching that.
Madness.
That's fucking battery acid. That is like Sainsbury's own. Don't do that to yourself.
Need.
And I just remember back to kind of like last year of sixth form, and that was like it. You know, the best thing about that year was that everyone was turning 18, and so there was another party every week to go to, and I was invited to at least 5% of them. so there was a party every month or so to go to. And, you know, you turn up, everyone would bring all their booze, you'd get trashed. I'd probably have to be picked up because I was throwing up
sleep
everywhere.
in a garden. I remember that stuff.
Yeah. You'd have to, we'd be having a great time. And I just was looking around it thinking, this is the saddest. It's fun and it's great and they're having a great time and that's fantastic. And it was a really nice event. But I was just thinking, oh my God, I used to get so excited about this. That's depressing.
You realise like how narrow your horizons are at the time.
Yeah, like those poor souls in Seamain.
Very, very upsetting. One more tale of youth before we move on.
Go on.
There's too much context here, so I'm not going to provide any of it, but we came across these two girls who looked about 12, but were probably about 18, with like glitter on their faces to go to a play. So they'd got the wrong idea about theatre. And afterwards, a mutual friend was like, you see that one with the gold glitter on her face? I was like, yeah. She crowdfunded her way up to Edinburgh. I was like, okay, well, what do you mean? What, she up with a show? No, she's not with a show. She said it was for like work experience to like become immersed in the world of theatre. Imagine
the fuck
how
out.
Atrocious is that? I don't know if I feel better or she'd made like 300 quid. Like it's 90 quid for a train ticket here. So that's a third of that gone. I don't know like how helpful that money has been, but I don't know if I feel worse for the fact that people have donated. Like I feel like they've been scammed, or just the fact of it existing anyway, like regardless of donation. I think I just hate both elements of that. It's pretty reprehensible.
It's dreadful. Do you remember the writer of that dreadful play that I got really annoyed once because she did a crowdfund for herself, a GoFundMe for herself, claiming that she needed all of this money for like essential massage therapy so that she could even get out of bed and so that she could pay her bills. And then 2 weeks later, this person who supposedly couldn't move was doing an individual tour of Edinburgh, the least accessible city in the whole of the UK, and which was like, you know, hundreds of pounds of trains away from where she lived. And I'd looked through this crowdfunder and seen that like another friend of ours had given her 150 quid. I was like, you've absolutely fobbed the fuck out of these people.
I feel like it just encourages a disclaimer that you kind of approach yourself with whenever you donate to one of these. It's like, well, they've said they're spending this money on X, but who really knows? It's probably a bit like that adage that if you're ever lending money to family or friends, you just have to kind of assume it's gone. And then if you get it back, it's a bonus.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Whereas with crowdfunding, you never get it back unless it fails. And then you just have to be like, well...
Have you ever done that? I know that I have, like, given to a crowdfunding thing and then probably while drunk, and then the next day kind of looked at it and thought, oh, that probably won't make it. I'll probably get that back.
You just start actively working against it.
As the days, as like reporting posts where it's shared.
Yeah.
And just as the days go by, just actively willing it not to reach its final goal. So
I got a notification at like 4 a.m. the other day that's from Facebook that said, your report has been actioned. Right. So I was like, okay, what is that? And I looked and it didn't tell me very much information. Here it is. We reviewed your report of, I'm going to say their name because I don't know them, Ian Roberts. And there are probably loads of people called that. And apparently on the the 15th of August at 3:04 a.m. I reported Ian Roberts, whoever that is. Sounds like a serial killer, doesn't it? That's a good serial killer name. I reported his comment for hate speech anonymously. You anonymously reported Ian's comment for displaying hate speech.
Good.
The day after, they reviewed it, and it violated their community standards, so they removed it. Thank you for your report. We've let Ian Roberts know that their comment has been removed, but not who reported it. Isn't that good?
Wow, you're a little coward.
That's me. But I have got, it says...
No right of reply, you say?
It says what you can do, and the only option is block it. And I might try and get in touch with him and ask him what it was. I cannot for the life of me think where it could have come up, or what I was even doing on Facebook at 3 a.m, because I was probably out. I think we've talked a lot about negative aspects of our Fringe experience, and I don't want to come across like it is negative, because I think the greatest thing about the Fringe is the variety that's on offer. So whilst I might not enjoy or understand every act at Pollyanna, to use it as a microcosm, just seeing the extremes and like different levels and ways people approach the same kind of effect, I think is an experience that's worthwhile in itself. And just as a final point on Pollyanna, there's an act called Selkie, which involves a man with his legs bound together by rope. I think he's got black contact lenses in, and I think the idea is it's supposed to be about SeaWorld, but they have omitted to ever mention that. They have two girls in like scuba suits with big buckets of water and a ball standing at either end of about a 30-foot stage space, whilst this man, entirely naked,
obviously
has to like flop between them, and I think he's supposed to be like a seal or something at sea life to try and get this ball. And it's just, it goes from people like clapping me like, yeah, you can do it, to when he's done it about 30 times, people are just like, oh my god, this man's going to die of carpet burns. It looks excruciatingly painful. And as like the first time I saw it, I was like, what the fuck is that? And then I saw it the other night.
You were getting ready on the report button.
Yeah, that was it. I'd reported it anonymously. But the second time I saw it, I was like, this is a really effective, visceral way to draw attention to like the horrors and the injustice of like mistreating animals like that. I just wish they'd made it a bit clearer what it was. So basically, yeah, my point is that anything you see here, with the exception of, I think the only exception is going to be like a student production of a play that people know and don't like that much anyway. Because there are some really good student productions of plays. I went to see York Drama Sock did a production of the Jim Cartwright play too, and it was very good. But last year we saw a production of a play called Boys, was it? I don't know if you were there actually. It was
I don't think I went.
It was just like there was nothing going on. It was just them reading the play basically. With the exception of that, good. Which I kind of avoid anyway, anything that you see is going to be more interesting than having not gone to see stuff. Yeah. At the very apex of experience in that regard for me would be the Ollie Reed play. I saw it, or I have now seen it, I think 6 or 7 times over the last year. Yeah. But why don't you tell us a bit about that?
Well, we saw a poster for it with our friend Freddie, didn't we?
Yes.
Coming back from Seamain one night. And we all decided at once that we had to go and see it. Uh-huh. So we booked tickets. It was at
Gilded Balloon.
Gilded Balloon, wasn't it? Yeah, in this huge castle.
It's a beautiful building.
It was underneath it. And we went in, and we sat in the second row, and there was a little bar desk sort of set up on stage, a hat stand, and a big chest. And then the song Wild Thing started up.
Yeah.
And a man dressed as a gorilla came on stage and squirted water and beer at everyone.
Yeah.
Did a dance, then took his mask off. And it was Ollie Reed.
Back from the grave. For those who don't know, Ollie Reed is an English actor, mostly film actor, or maybe exclusively film actor, who, if you don't know him, you'll most likely recognise him as Bill Sykes in Oliver.
Yeah.
The one who shouts about Bullseye and then kills Nancy, and you're terrified of him.
But he was played by an incredible actor called Rob Crouch.
Yeah, follow him on Twitter. The man is just amazing.
And the next hour is just some of the most incredible theatre that we've ever seen 7 times.
Yeah. There's not a lot that I'd go back for that many times that didn't involve some
No.
kind of elevated state of inebriation.
But like it's just a one-man show as he goes through his life.
Yeah.
Telling you about how he got into film and his experiences once he was there. And it's hilarious. It's tragic. Yeah. It's absolutely heartbreaking. I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was.
No, I think the main draw was that Ollie Reed was known as like the show.
An absolute maverick.
And as a total alcoholic. So there are these amazing clips on YouTube, which maybe I'll link to in the show notes, depending on how well my laptop holds up. Amazing clips of the real Ollie Reed on like chat shows, just out of his mind, pissed, but not in or at least not exclusively in a fun, like, that's funny way. Sometimes in just a tragic, this is a broken man who is going to die any second way, where he's just like, huge guy. He can barely hold his own face up, just babbling about the Celts. And you're just like, what is going on? This man is inches from the grave. And he managed to like capture all of it. It was so good.
Yeah, it was great because it wasn't necessarily like an impression or even an impersonation. It was just an embodiment of Ollie Reed.
Just so good.
That was really the antithesis of the dreadful Fringe reputation for abhorrent student drama. I mean, on that note, I got a message from Amy, ex-guest
episode,
because she's old.
No one
don't
knows.
ask.
Check it out though.
19.
Yeah, just search Amy.
I think it's
on the site,
19.
It will come up.
She just got back from doing her show, Dirty Laundry,
of course.
at the Fringe. Said she really enjoyed it. Best thing she's ever done.
Oh, that's good.
But she sent me a message saying, meant to say, if you're strapped for context for next week's Fringe episode, unlikely, there is material aplenty, tell Isaac to collect his favourite / most fucking weird flyer pitches. Everyone, because people are all flyering all day and shouting the premise of their shows to the point that they become completely dislocated from how outrageous their now condensed pitch has become. I overheard some gems from people with bored, uninvested faces because they've forgotten what they're actually saying. And the 4 examples are as follows. Come see Bin Laden. He gives the audience cake. Get inside the head of a raving schizophrenic. Show about a vibrator, anyone?
Such a casual way of phrasing that.
Yeah. And then my favourite, it was Orphans. Let me find it. Orphan talks about his first experience of bumming.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which I said is troubling mainly because I don't know which genre they're going for.
No. Could be a musical.
And if they're going for tragedy, that's somewhat callous.
Yes, I don't think they've captured that in the pitch necessarily.
No.
Yeah, I've tried to avoid the mile for the most part because I just cannot be bothered to be flyed.
Yeah, it is tiring.
It is tiring.
The whole like Fringe is tiring.
Yeah, you have to be on your guard.
My first year that I went up, like as I mentioned last time, I was staying at the uni accommodation, and I oh my God, I can hear the ghost wind loud now.
Try not to think about it too much.
I was worried when you went radio silent a minute ago that you've just been taken into the next dimension.
Paranormal activity, straight into the ecto realm.
But my last day, I saw like 4 shows or something, and then walked back to the accommodation, then walked back to go out again, and then finally walked back in the evening. And I don't think I got back in until about 6 in the morning, and collapsed down. And it wasn't until an alarm went off at 7:55 that I remembered that checkout was 8 o'clock in the morning.
That's grim.
And I didn't have my train until 4 in the afternoon.
What a day.
And so I picked up the phone and I rang down to the reception and I was like, look, do not throw me out of this room. I'm begging you, please. Like, can I not have a late checkout? Even 2 hours, like 10 a.m. That's plenty of time. Come on. And they were like, no, look, we have to have these rules in place because, like, people have got to get in and get them cleaned and whatnot. And I was like, I have had 2 hours sleep. Don't make me do this because I will kick the fuck off. Like, I'm not leaving this room. I will stage a protest in this room. And but they were having none of it. They were like, no, you've got to get out. And I was like, okay, what if I pay you for another night?
Ooh.
Can I then stay? And they were like, no, well, someone's supposed to be staying in there tonight. And I was like, I won't be here tonight. I don't want it for the night. I'm saying that I will pay you for a whole night of staying just so that I can have 3 more hours in bed so that I do not
argument.
die. And they were like, hang on a minute. You hear the rattling of keys. No, I'm afraid that someone's staying in there and they're due to be arriving at 12, so the team needs to get in. I was like, but 4 hours. They need 4 hours to get in and clean. I haven't created that much of a mess. I've barely been in the room. That's the whole point. Like, I just, no. I was like, okay, well, are there any other rooms that I can pay for to have for the night? Like, just please. And I mean, by this point, I was awake because I was angry and desperate and tragic. And they were like, no, I'm afraid there aren't. And I simply, to this day, refuse to believe that is the case. I am certain she was just a sadistic cow.
Just getting off on your
wanted
sleep
nothing
deprivation.
more than, because the whole building was empty. I was the only person I had seen in the whole thing. I refuse to believe that everyone was arriving on one day just to deprive me of somewhere to sleep. So in the end, she was like, "Mate, you've got to go." And I was like, "Well, you're terrible."
In a few years, when I have a podcast, I'm going to publicly decry your Guantanamo-esque.
I swear, Janice.
That's horrid.
So I ended up like having to drag myself out of bed, suddenly like deathly asleep again, and like threw my things into my case, dragged some shoes on. Like I just about managed to pack everything, and I had no idea what to do. I felt like I'd been evicted. I was so tired and I had nowhere to go. Like everywhere's fucking full and busy when the Fringe is on. It's not like normally when you'd be like, oh, I'd just go to like a Costa or something and sit in the corner. You can't just go to a Costa because there's probably a fucking play in the corner.
Called My Day at the Coffee Shop. An orphan recounts his tale
of a dreadful experience of sodomy at the hands of a giant
All I
coffee
wanted was a
conglomerate.
frappuccino.
But I came away walking like John Wayne. I went over to, oh my God, what even is the venue called? It was the one that's got like a kind of courtyard area outside, not where you did your show last
Yeah, I know
year.
what you mean.
Yeah, so I went to there because I knew that there were York people who worked there, and I knew that there were York people who were doing a show there. They were doing another very original Alice in Wonderland
Oh, really?
show.
That's unexpected. I thought no one did that anymore.
And this one was actually quite good.
Uh-huh.
But I went because I knew that there was a bench outside and I was going to absolutely homeless myself and sleep on it. And I just knew that if there were York people around, I was at least 5% less likely to have all of my stuff nicked.
Yeah.
So I didn't even lie down on this bench. I just sat on it, like hugging my suitcase
This is
with my bag
very
kind of
sad.
wrapped around my arm, and just went to sleep. and
People
then
probably thought
woke
you
up.
were doing a show
Yeah.
about like sleeping rough.
It was a modern Rip Van Winkle tribute, but where he's a homeless
Oh, dear.
instead. So I did this, and it was a really surreal experience. It was more like a kind of Beckett play or something, where I was one of the, you know, in Endgame, the grandparents that live in the
Yes.
bins behind them.
You were like them.
I was
but
like
even
that.
you didn't even have a bin to your name.
No, I had even
Couldn't
less
even Oscar the Grouch
than these
your way into their good
post-apocalyptic
books.
landscape bin dwellers. In that, I would be asleep, and then every hour or so, the show would end, and people would come out, and someone would come over to the bench to have a chat,
No.
and then have a chat, and then like Grandmother Willow or something, I'd just resume my position and go back to sleep.
See you in the next century, dearie.
Next time the wind blows east, and then and like my face would crust up
You
again.
became
and
like
I'd
an
just
oracle
suddenly be-
figure. People asking for
Yeah.
I need 5
was the
stars,
Sybil.
Grandmother Willow. What must I do? Well,
You could try adapting a different novel.
have you heard of Overdone? Have you heard of Giving
Flogging
Me Your
the
Bed?
dead horse? So yeah, I kind of an alarm went off on my phone at about 3:30, and I sort of resumed life
Nice.
and wandered my way to the station. Actually, this has reminded me of indeed last year's tragedy of going home.
Oh, I don't think I
If
know
you
about
recall.
this. Didn't you get almost stabbed or something outside of that female DJ night that we just didn't
Oh
talk
yeah,
about?
someone did try to attack. That was on the way there though.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Good.
No wonder I hated it. But no, we were in that place until God knows when, because I was getting a really early morning train, and I decided to avoid the previous year's tragedy.
By
and
just not
stay up.
sleeping.
Yeah,
Yeah.
by not sleeping at all, not even beginning the process. So we stayed out at that place all night, said a teary goodbye,
Yes, I remember.
and then I went back to the flat. And I was going to have to go and wake everyone up, which was a shame because I didn't have the key. But thankfully, when I got there, Mary was there.
Uh-huh.
And so she was like just getting back at that time as well. So I managed to get in, get all my stuff, and I was waiting for a cab to take me to what's the other Edinburgh station?
Oh, why the hell were you
There's-
going to the other Edinburgh station?
That was where my ticket was from.
Oh, no.
Because is Waverley the one that you
Waverley's
go to?
the one in the middle of town, and there's one that we only hear spoken about in hushed terms.
Yeah. So I was going from that one.
Okay.
And I'd ordered a cab, and I just said to take me to the station, and he turned up, and he pulled up outside, and I got in, and I went, can you take me to Edinburgh whatever station? And he went,
Oh, lad.
he was like, yeah, sure, okay, and pulled away, and we were sat in traffic, and the cab had been a little bit late, and I was sort of like looking at my watch, thinking, I say watch, phone,
Yeah.
obviously, thinking, could be a bit tight, and I went, do you know how long it'll take us to get there? And he went, oh yeah, and I went, is it long? He went, oh no, definitely not.
Good.
And I was like, oh, right. How far away is it? And he pointed out of the front of the car and went, there it is, over there. And it was literally at the bottom of the road that your accommodation
Oh,
was
no.
on. It was 200 yards away.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And he like took me there, and the whole cab ride was 1 minute because we had to wait at some traffic lights, and we got there, and I didn't even reach the minimum fare. So he was like, "That'll be £4."
Wow.
And it turned out that in order to do this job, he'd been called out from the airport
Oh, no.
to come and take me 100
That explains
yards
his
down the
rather
road.
curt answers, I suppose.
Yeah, I was so sorry.
That's such a shame. Poor man.
I looked like I was everyone's image of the entitled middle class student going to the
I'm
fringe.
sorry, how long is this going to take? I mean, sorry, do you understand what I'm
Sorry,
saying? Do you
could you
speak English?
step on it, please? I've places to be. You know, I've got a train to catch.
I say you Scotch, you drive awfully slowly. Did anyone ever tell you that?
So yeah, I've not the greatest experiences of leaving the fringe.
No. Well, I haven't had to do it myself yet this year, but I
I
can't.
thought you meant ever. Like
Ever.
you've
No, I've
just
been here since
always
last
been
year.
there.
I
I
found
wonder
it
why I
just
hadn't
easier.
seen you.
Yeah. Look, we should barrel into email, but I just want to make mention of going yesterday to a seance in a shipping
my
container.
Oh, no.
And so what happened was you queued up outside a shipping container and they did the classic spiel that everyone does where it's like, if you get claustrophobic, if it all becomes too much, just take off the headphones. And actually, no, they didn't. They said, if you don't like it, then it's tough because we've shut it. So you're done. But they were like, we'll give you a minute when you go in to just see if you can deal with the space, because it was a literal shipping container.
Right,
And so everyone sat down. There was a big long table in the middle, and you had to sit down in like reappropriated cinema theatre seating kind of thing, red velvet looking. And above this long table were like some bells and some little dim lights and a big red velvet curtain at the end. And so people were sat in like 2 long rows of about 10 on each side, either side of this table. And then they shut the door of the shipping container, which had exactly the sound you hoped it would from films when someone's shut inside in like a mob film. That like, and then the bolt, really powerful sound. And then you had these headphones, and it was only about 20 minutes. And I suppose the problem with these things is that as soon as the lights go off, and it was like pitch black, you couldn't see your hand in front of your face, darkness. But as soon as that happens, I think our own ability to imagine what could happen always invariably outweighs what does happen. Because it was good, and it was like, well done. It was just audio of a seance happening. That the cleverest thing about which was that it was like directional audio. So it sounded like someone was walking around, and it had responses from other people who were in the room. So they'd be like, you could hear them talking to someone over on the far right, and then that person would answer. And the upside was that it was quite immersive, but the downside was that when he was really far away, I couldn't really hear him that well. I could tell that he was talking about someone sticking their tongue out and something bitter, but I couldn't tell much beyond that. And just imagining what it could have been kind of ruined the mood for me a little bit. So it was a bit funny. And they had, so there were speakers, you're wearing headphones, and then there was something inside that made the whole shipping container like resonate like a big tuning fork. And that was when the ghost was really kicking off. And it was like the whole world was vibrating. And the culmination was that you're supposed to keep your hands on the table at all time, so that this ghost, who he kept referring to as beloved, because I think he was a bit unhinged, if you took your hands off the table, it was going to be able to like get out into the world. And when the big bang bit happened, people obviously took their hands off the table, and the ghost was not best pleased, or either he was not best pleased or he was so happy that his only celebration was to possess the fuck out of everyone. And it ended with him coming really close and going, "She's out. I'm so sorry." And then just a horrid scream as the shipping container like vibrated. And then they opened the doors. It was like, that's the seance done. Thanks for coming. It was such a weird little, like seeing the queue of people coming next or looking really anxious. There's something really nice about like when you're leaving a roller coaster and everyone's kind of looking to judge based on your reaction. They're like, well, how am I going to feel about
like
this?
when we got off the Darren Brown.
Yeah, and everyone's like wry smiles or just like shivering slightly.
Yeah.
And you're trying to work out what they mean by it. When at Thorpe Park, we pointed out probably in our episode 3 about Thorpe Park that everyone coming off every ride just looked like they'd been at the post office. They were so bored looking by everything. I always feel like it's our duty to start their experience early by looking like you've had a good time on the ride when you're coming off it. And the next people going into the shipping container just looked petrified by the whole thing. Like they were, because I think on the outside, all you can hear is the whole thing vibrating. But what a good idea that is, a little shipping container full of ghosts.
Was that the title?
Shipping container full of ghosts, yeah. I'm bringing it up again next year. It's going to be really powerful. It'd be really fun to write a horror theatre thing, I think.
All right, well, let's do that then.
Let's do it. Let's move on to any number of these emails. It'll have to be you because I don't think I can load it.
Okay, well, I figure that we should respond to the deluge of emails we've had from the wonderful Mark Stratfold.
Yes.
Who first got in touch, you may remember, listeners, a few weeks ago to tell us all about being asleep on the ocean.
Yep.
He's since got in touch a few times about his travels in Paris, like some sort of Baudelarian flaneur.
He's like the new A.A. Gill,
Yeah, just wandering around.
living his life.
His first was about grammar.
Yes.
He was hoping to get in touch, hoping that we, as English students, could help him with French grammar.
Ooh, we can't.
And you know a bit of French, so you should be right on this, shouldn't you? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. You'll know all it. So all he wants is a comprehensive breakdown of what the present indicative, the imperfect, the past historic, the future, the conditional, the present subjunctive, and the imperfect subjunctive tenses, or indeed moods, are.
He says,
What the fuck do they all mean? He says. I trust with your English degrees that to you they do mean something. To me, just might as well be Klingon.
oh, well, I mean, I think let's follow that up by email, but we can help out
Yeah.
to some extent.
The past historic, isn't that the pluperfect?
Plus parfait.
Don't we know that as that?
I had to speak some French yesterday or the day before to two French people who were throwing up to different extents and trying to find directions to the castle, Le Castel, they kept saying, which is not, I don't think, the word for castle, at like 3 a.m. It's like, well, I don't know what you're trying to do there, but it's going to be shut.
Shouldn't you ask him for the chateau?
Yeah. We've had some thought monster thoughts as well.
We have. I figured we'd just follow up. Mark went to see Planet of the Apes.
Is this the one where he has it in French? The title of it?
Yes.
He's
But that the only problem was that some of the scenes between the apes are in sign language that were only subtitled in French.
Oh, I've got this email up. He says, decided to go and see La Planète. And he's written, I think it must have auto-corrected, because monkey in French is singe. And it's written as singles. So that in French it's called La Planète des Singes Supremity. But he's written it as single supremacy. So it means the planet with a single supremacy, which just sounds like a kind of 40s era pro-Nazi movie. Although Planet of Ape Supremacy is a clumsy way of phrasing that as well, isn't it?
But aren't that's the absolute nightmare for
Yeah.
translation is translating into French, because they're so roundabout and cumbersome. I think I remember reading an article that the French version of The Half-Blood Prince is about 150 pages longer, just because it's such an inefficient
And
language.
what about, have we ever mentioned the thing about Voldemort on this show?
Oh, what about how his name is different in all of the
It's
the
one of my
languages?
favourite facts of all time, and I probably have said it, but just, guys, just take a second and enjoy the fact that if you're ever feeling low, you're ever having a bad day, you have to vacate a university room within 1 minute and go and become a grandmother willow homeless for the entire day. You can fall back on the fact that in, I think, the Romanian translation of Harry Potter, because Voldemort's name has to anagram Tom Marvolo Riddle to I am Lord Voldemort, he's called Romeo G. Detlev Jr. It's just my favourite. It's like, it just takes away all the gravitas that character has worked so hard to build for himself.
Like even in the French version, I can't remember his full name, but in the French version, his middle name is Elvis. Which is
I just don't buy that anyone with the middle name Elvis or who is someone Detlev Jr. would ever go on to lead the most incredible uprising of racist wizardry that the world had ever seen. Oh dear. It's so good.
But yes, checked with the girl selling the ticket that it was a VO version originale showing, one with subtitles rather than having been dubbed in French. That all went without problem. The shame was that quite a lot of the intra-ape dialogue, which is an incredible bit of phrasing, is in sign language, which was only subtitled in French. Fortunately, I got enough of it for it not to spoil the film. Goes on to say, can't watch Carl Pilkington because he hates Ricky Gervais.
Oh yeah.
Shame, because that's incorrect.
Yeah, I understand.
Understandable.
Like Ricky Gervais because he is a dick.
Oh, but at least
like
he's
that.
upfront about it.
Yeah. He also has
That's
a
our
similar issue.
tactic too.
Yeah, exactly. Similar issue with Professor Brian Cox, he said.
Who is a cunt. So
I've met him, he was all right.
But when he's on television,
He does have a quite odd delivery, doesn't he? He's just like,
Very
the
insufferable.
universe is really nice. And it makes
vast and gorgeous.
That was quite
You
good.
look up at the stars and you can just feel the world.
It's like you're being touched by God every second that you look up at the sky.
And some nice spelling of Dara O'Brien. everyone spells it differently, so don't worry about it.
The ghosts in my kitchen are kicking off. Did you hear that?
I did hear.
Good.
I think we'll have to just post the photos from Mark's most recent email.
Yeah, he's been to see an exterminator. Not in the.
I don't think he went to
sense.
see one intentionally. I think it just happened to pass.
Well,
one.
you know, we all phrase things differently. If Mark's
But,
desperate for extermination, then
We'll post some photos because there are some real travesties going on in the window.
taxidermy of things they can exterminate, except they've like recreated the Muhammad Ali George Foreman fight and stuff. It's very odd. Thought monster.
You have.
So what number are we on now? We've had 8.
No, I don't think we've dealt with 8.
Okay, well let's do 8 now and 9 next episode. 8 is if. Oh no, I can't read this one because there's a word in it that I can't say. Have you got it up?
I have. No, you've got to say.
I'm not going to. All right, I'll say all the words I want to, and then you fill in the rest.
No, I'm not. No.
If soap smells good but tastes bad, how do we know? You'll go.
I'm not doing it.
How do we know?
You have to do it.
Doesn't taste like candy floss, and the word that's missing out is just a word for excrement that just upsets me to allow into my brain.
I want to bring up here that when we were at university, we often used to go for a spoons lunch, and one of the things that we used to get was a hot dog with pulled pork on it, and Isaac perennially refused to order this meal for himself, like some sort of rich invalid, because it was called the barbecue hog dog. And he refused to say these words
How dare
out loud.
they try and make me? Any food order that has a repeating syllable, or that's like Auntie May's best ever, like whenever it's usually American restaurants that have a ridiculous title, I'm just not. I'll be like, can I have the pasta, please? Could I have the hog?
What do you do when you go to a restaurant, like a British restaurant, that has the menu in a foreign language?
Well, it depends on the language. If it's one that I know any of, then I'll give it a go. But otherwise, I'll just leave.
Of course you do.
Look, I'm a European. I'm half French. You know, I'm down with all that. But no, I would
my
probably
dad goes
say,
for some kind of somewhere in between, and he'll either mangle the foreign language or he'll stutter for a bit and then just say it in English. I love the fish.
Pasta? Le pasta? S'il vous plaise? If you play? It's silly though, isn't it? Why bother with the menu in a different language?
I hate my least favourite thing. I mean, this is inadvertently answering Emily's email from a few weeks ago, but I think that my least favourite thing is Italian restaurants in England where they get all of their clearly English staff to pretend to be Italian.
Yeah.
If you go to like Strada or
staff
Prezzo
from
or
elsewhere
something.
in Europe,
Yeah.
and they just have to put on a flamboyant accent. It just does it really add that much? I would say probably
It
not.
detracts. It actively
Quite the
detracts
opposite.
from my experience.
It's rather unfortunate. That's a good one for restaurant shames.
However, to answer the
Yeah.
Thought Monsters question, absolutely
I think that's
turn
research
yourself
you need to
in.
conduct yourself.
You need to conduct yourself before heading to the local police station and admitting everything you've ever written.
Also, it's not
Because-
true that all soap tastes bad, because there used to be a L'Oreal No Tears watermelon shampoo. when I was about 5.
don't be admitting this.
And
on
I
air.
would drink gallons
don't-
of it. No, I didn't
Fuck's
really.
sake.
Just if it ran down, if it went the wrong way, when you were rinsing it off.
Was that the L'Oreal for Kids No Tears one?
Uh-huh.
I always thought that the Cherry Bakewell one was tastier.
I never experienced it, but if anyone wants to send some in,
I tell
then
you what,
I'll
I will
down it
bring
on air.
some down next time I come see you.
I'm going to do shots.
Actually, I'm off.
of it.
I'm going to go to your house tomorrow to drop off your mum's birthday
you?
present. Yeah.
Oh, that's
So
threatening.
I might.
That sounds
I
like
might
you can
drop-
set fire to something. Good.
But I'll maybe if I see any Cherry Bakewell L'Oreal for Kids, I'll drop it round to you,
Excellent. Well, that's very kind of
even
you.
though you won't be there.
The ghosts are moving in. The boiler is kicking off once again. I can think of no time better than the present to get out of here via everyone's favourite toll booth. That's right, it's plugs. Over to you.
Wow. Well, you can contact Isaac and myself, or indeed the very idea of the show, if individual communication makes you anxious, by email, TAS, T-A-S, at shame.city, or via the website, which is just shame.city or shame.city/contact. You can also find us on Twitter at That's a Shamecast for the show. Alternatively, you can find me at Cynical Declan or Isaac at Isaac BD.
Truth.
Thanks.
What else is that?
Didn't lie during the plugs.
No, that was all good.
Reviews, if you want to review
of
us, shame.city/review.
Now,
when
you're going to do your review, keep in mind the show as a whole. These last 2 episodes have been, an interesting experiment in audio that comes out of ghost kitchens and
audio,
streets,
in internet dropping out,
infested as they were,
in 700 millisecond delays.
Yeah. There have been periods of this episode where I've frankly not been able to hear a word you've been saying other than like Bin Laden was the bit I had a while ago.
Well, I mean, I will take that as a reason for why you haven't really been laughing as much as
I'll edit in so much
the
laughter.
Hilarity I've been just canned studio laughter.
Yeah, it's not going to be my laughter.
You patronising.
It's going to be great. But yes, it's the commitment really, because lesser shows would have been like, I'm at the Fringe, I'm trying to be, go out and live my life as much as possible. Declan's been barely at home.
Declan's trying to kneel in as many counties of England as he possibly can.
He wouldn't have been delivering this bi-weekly joy, but we pulled ourselves out of bed and up to a microphone to deliver on your behalf. And if that's not worthy of 5 stars, then I think you need to reevaluate most elements of how you came by that result. Shame.city/reviews. Tell a friend. Word of mouth is best of mouth. If you're at the Fringe, tweet me or something, tweet the show, and I was going to say give you a sticker, but while I could do that, it wouldn't be a That's a Shame one because we haven't made any yet. So I'll have a look out for something to give you.
No.
But otherwise, yeah, this has been
peel one
episode.
off of like someone's.
Yeah,
poster.
I'll give you a flyer for someone's show. It'd be fantastic. This has been episode 32. I've been Isaac. You've been
Declan.
I'm going to assume you said it because I didn't hear a word. I'll see you.
I knew that wasn't going to work.
We'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. I mean the bare necessities, oh Mother Nature's recipes that bring the bare necessities of life. Wherever I wander, wherever I roam, I couldn't be fonder of my big home. The bees are buzzing in the tree to make some honey just for me. The bare necessities of life will come to you. For the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. I mean the bare necessities, oh Mother Nature's recipes that bring the bare necessities of life. Wherever I wander, wherever I roam, I couldn't be fonder, my new home. necessities of life will come to you.